Board of Sign Language Interpreters meeting starting at 10:02 on October 30th of 2024. This meeting is being held in person and also virtually. And it is being recorded, and HOL will post the recording for later viewing. And we are going to call to order Colleen. I am here. Eric Crook.
Here.
Here, there you are. Great. Mish. Last name interpreter has a hard time pronouncing. Sorry. Good check. Thank you. Are you here? Tammy, are you there?
Here.
All right, Tammy's here.
Sleeping
Great.
still.
Perfect, that's all right, your excuse. And then Al Mascarenas is here. If anybody from the public wants to comment, please raise your hand and say your first and last name for the record. Board members, please don't use the chat during the meeting. The health licensing office is asking for each individual that is involved in Zoom to keep your phone on mute and camera off for the duration of the meeting, please. Unless you are called on and you have the opportunity to make a comment during the public interested meeting.
Section posted in the agenda.
The section posted in the meeting. If you want to comment, public, please sign up on the registration list, or you can email Josh Page at oha.oregon.gov and provide your first and last name. Now, everyone is asked to use appropriate language, manners, and protocols when conducting board business. Now, we are going to call the meeting to order.
Hi, good morning, everybody. Chair, members of the board, my name is Bob Boswell, the Director of the Health Licensing Office. And for clarification, Josh's email address is josh.page@oha.oregon.gov. Okay, so thank you, Chair, for calling the meeting to order, and I apologize to everybody for the slowness of the meeting getting started, technical issues. Chair, first item on the agenda is we need to do an approval of the agenda. So if someone can make a motion to approve the agenda.
So this is Colleen. I have a question before we approve. I would like to add something, or do we amend the agenda before or after?
You can do it now.
You amend the agenda before the board votes.
Amend. Thank you, Sammy. I would like to amend the agenda with a new topic. I haven't really shared with anybody, but I want to discuss a reduction or a discount. I have information that people have done some research and they have recommended to other licensing boards that the license be discounted. So I'm hoping that that research would be able to apply to our board for licensing.
Hold on, we need a chairperson. We need to vote on the chairperson. Let's skip the first bullet. Well, yes, no, here you go. You do it next.
Okay, so,
I did not hear what someone wanted to add.
she wants to talk about fees and bring some evidence to us for the board business. So Chair, that would be an item that would go in number 8, other board business.
Okay, great, we can put it there. Just call.
Okay.
So should we go ahead with approving the agenda then, now?
Please.
With
Yes.
knowing that number 8 will we bring that up with number 8?
Yes, and I've added it to my notes.
Thank you. So I guess we need to move to approve the agenda. Anybody?
This is Tammy. I move to approve the agenda with Colleen's addition of discussing reduction of fees.
Second.
We've had a first and a second. Chair, if you could call roll, and those that are in favor of approving the agenda, signify by aye.
So sorry, say that again.
We need the chair to call roll, please.
So sorry, my apologies.
No problem.
Sure. Al?
Aye.
Sorry, we're seeing frozenness here, so that's great. Who did she just say? Sorry, this computer's frozen.
Al Mascarenhas says
Eric?
aye.
Eric?
Aye.
Tammy?
Aye.
Colleen, I'm aye. Did we miss someone?
Mish.
It's frozen?
It was frozen, I think I said aye.
She said aye already.
Okay.
Well,
Thank
it
you.
says, I think it was frozen on their screen, but I could see it, so everything's good now.
Okay, thank you. Chair, the next item on the agenda is elect the chairperson and vice chairperson for the remainder of 2024.
Chair for the remainder of 2024.
Just the chair for the remainder of 2024, and then for 2025, chair and vice chair. So does, we can have a
So
discussion?
who would like to nominate? Al is raising their hand. I would like to nominate Colleen as chairperson. This is Al for 2024 or 2025, sorry, yes, for 2024 and 2025. And Colleen says, yes, I can continue for 2024. Mish seconds.
So we got a first,
And they can do it, you have to do it, Colleen's like, oh, 24, and remainder of 24, remainder of 25, we want this person as chair and this person as vice chair. Do that.
Is there a discussion that happens right now, or?
you can, or somebody can make a nomination.
So I think right now, this is Eric speaking. I think right now Colleen is the vice chair. Not I think, I mean, Colleen is the vice chair right now. So if she moves into
Correct.
that position, then does that mean now we need to elect a vice
Yes.
chair? Okay, and the proposal right now from Al, just to be clear, was for Colleen to be the chair for 24 and 25, or just through the end of 24?
This is Bob, if Al is making a motion or making a first to have Colleen, or, yes, Colleen to remain chair for the rest of 24 and for 25, she can make that motion.
Okay, this is Al. I motioned that Colleen continues through 2024 and through 2025 to be the chairperson.
Colleen says, yes, that's what Al was saying.
Maybe seconds.
Colleen's asking, is that clear?
Mish
Yep.
seconds.
Looked like Mitch made a second.
Mish seconds.
Okay,
All the roll.
call the roll.
Okay. Now calling who is in favor of the proposed?
All the roll.
Have to say the names. Al.
Al?
So Mish, yes. So Al, yes. Mish, yes. Tammy supports, yes. Eric, aye, great. I guess I support myself for this also, yes.
Yay. Thank you.
Congratulations.
So now we need a motion for a vice chair for the remainder of 24 and 25.
Who would like to, anybody want to self-nominate for vice chair? Mish says, I would like to motion for Al. I'd like to nominate Al. So this is Colleen, so for 2024, Mish, and
And Mitch says, yeah, for 2024 and 2025. Oh, right.
so for Al for just 2024, for the remainder of 2024, for just now. I second that. This is Colleen, I.
So,
Mish saying I second that,
okay,
so
who,
Mish seconds.
stop,
Al was 2024 vice chair.
who made the motion?
Rich.
Okay. And then we, so,
And yeah, Mish made the motion, and then Colleen is saying, I just clarified Mish's motion, just to make sure that, because Al's term is only for this year, so for 2024 as vice president, so then for vice chair for this year, and so then Mish seconded that, and I
Rich made the
supported that.
motion.
Yeah.
okay.
I don't know who seconded. I don't know if there's a
Colleen
roll
did.
call. And they have not done roll call.
We'll
Call the roll.
Colleen can second. Okay.
Got mine ready.
There we go, Eric seconds.
Oh, perfect.
So Eric seconds, perfect.
Yeah, chair can't make a first or a second.
And then, sorry, Al is saying, I'm gonna make that clear. So now we need to see who is in favor for Al to be vice chair for the remainder of 2024.
Yes.
So do we do who's in favor?
Do a roll call,
Call the
please.
person's name.
So Mish? Aye. Eric?
Aye.
Tammy?
Aye.
Aye, okay. Me, yes, aye. Colleen?
Alright.
And if we could pause for an interpreter switch, please. Colleen says the interpreters are moving around. Here we go.
Settled? Okay. So now 2025 vice chair.
Colleen says, who would like to be the vice chair with me? Anyone want to self-nominate? Eric?
Yeah,
And Mish says,
Colleen.
oh, Colleen is calling on Mish now. Mish is saying, we are still hoping for more members to join.
Two
We
slots
have
available.
two positions available, so if we could please wait until 2025 to see who joins the board for that vote. And then Colleen says, is that possible to do? Can we do that?
It's not ideal because the law says you have to have a vice chair.
So if, this is Eric, what,
Eric, go ahead.
what's the law say for vice chair? Because we just set up Al till the end of 2024, and we have another meeting before the end of the year. No. Dang it. Because, yeah, my term ends, Al's term ends, and we
You
have
guys
two.
not
Are
reappointed?
you gonna reappoint?
Colleen
I'll
says, yep,
reappoint.
I'd
that.
like to, but I'm just saying for right now, like in essence, unless we reapply, there's four positions that would effectively be open. And so that's, I'm in support of what Mish is suggesting because, while we have the two open seats, if Al and I don't reappoint, then it's gonna be four open seats. And so,
And then you won't even be able to meet anyway. But you won't have quorum.
we won't have
Sammy, you said
quorum.
what?
You won't be able to meet anyway because there won't be a quorum.
So this is Bob, I have a question. Is Al planning to reappoint?
And this is Al. I have not yet applied for it, but for now, yes, I'm willing to continue through 2024.
What about 25?
Me?
So if,
And
so if she does agree to 25 and she decides to not reappoint, we will have
Hold on a
an
minute, Sammy,
additional.
Sammy, hold on, you, one
Yeah,
hour
we're
loud
talking.
talking,
Yeah.
sorry.
1 second. Can we ask Al to repeat what they said, please? So yes, I would support
Mish's comment.
Mish. Sometimes I get the name sign wrong, sorry. I would support Mish's comment about waiting until
Those other slots are
those
filled.
other slots are filled before I apply. And Colleen says, yes, so we have Al for 2024, but we don't know what other folks might be available for 2025. So,
Agreed.
and Eric, did you have to add, you had something to add? Did you want to say something else?
This is Eric. I just wanted to, my question to Sammy was to clarify that we're gonna have open, that we currently have open positions and that both Al and myself have to reappoint, and if we don't, there will be two more open positions. And so I wanted to clarify about appointing the vice chair, because it sounds like what Sammy's saying is that we have to make that decision today because it's our last meeting in 2024. And we have to have a vice chair by law for the 2025. So to clarify, what that would mean is, what I understand it to mean is that if Al doesn't accept the position to continue into 25, we need to have somebody selected.
So if you guys decide, let's go with Al. She's decided we're gonna do 2025, and you decide not to reappoint for whatever reason, at that next following meeting, I will bring to you again, pick a new chair. So just because you choose one, it
And
doesn't
this is
mean.
clarification, you mean vice chair?
Yes. The same said for chair. If Pauline leaves, then we'll have to vote on that again. And Heather's hands raised.
Heather has her hand raised.
She may still send this.
Hi.
Oh, I didn't hear her.
Okay. Hopefully you can hear me. I'm still working on my video. I have a bit of a cold, and I apologize for my voice. There is a rule. I was just going to point that out. Sammy did cover that, but there is a rule on when elections need to be held. So I took my hand down, but just wanted to let you know that there was a rule on that.
Thank you, Heather.
Go ahead, Sammy.
Anybody who serves as vice chair? Anyone of the four of you?
So Eric, I'll be vice chair for 25 if,
Eric?
yes. If
Okay.
necessary.
Okay, so Eric is self-nominating. Anyone else? Mish says I second. So Mish second, says Colleen.
I'm a tribute.
Okay, so, this is Bob. So I'll read the motion, including 24 and 25, and if somebody could say so moved. I'm sorry? They're voted on it, or excuse me, for 2025. So Colleen for the chair and Eric for vice chair for 2025.
Call the roll.
Okay, so now we are following that. And Al, did you want to say if you support? Yes, you support? Okay, great.
Aye.
Mish?
Aye.
Tammy? Aye. Eric? Yep, aye. Okay, great. So, and I am aye as well.
Yay.
Congratulations.
Yay!
This is Bob. The next item on the agenda is approval of the 2025 meeting dates. We have Thursday, January 9th at 9:30 through Zoom. Thursday, April.
Hold on.
Okay, Thursday, April 3 at 9:30, in person at HLO. Thursday, August 7th at 9:30 through Zoom. And Thursday, October 30, 9:30 through Zoom. And additional meetings may be scheduled if necessary.
And Colleen says yes. So do we need to approve the dates that you just listed?
Yeah, motion and second.
Yes.
Call the roll.
Okay, I can't motion, so who would like to motion?
This is Al. Can we ask a question first?
If
Or
you want to
clarify?
clarify about that? Yeah, about the dates before we motion?
Yes.
Yeah, go ahead.
The second date listed, April 3rd, 9:30, in person at the HLO office. At that meeting, will there still be the option to join via Zoom? Personally, it would be much easier for me to be able to join via Zoom just for visual access.
Yes.
Is that going to be an option?
Sure.
This is Bob, yes.
Wonderful, thank you.
And Colleen has her hand raised. I'm Colleen, I have a question. So yeah, I just thought of something after Al's comment. It would be nice if on the list, you would list the end time as well, so that we could be on the same page for expectations. because I want to make sure that I know how much time to allot for those meetings.
I mean, it holds you to a schedule,
Yeah,
so.
so this is Bob, it may limit what we may try to accomplish in the meeting. You know, to include the deliberations, any executive sessions. So, I mean, we can propose noon or 1 or 2 o'clock. But if we leave it open now, when we do the agenda and the scheduling, we can better have a better time to end at that time, rather than try to put an end on it now.
By.
But we can say by 2 o'clock.
Mish, go ahead. Go ahead, Mish.
This is Mish, sorry. I understand the idea of leaving an end time open for the time being. We do need, I think we should have an end time set maybe a month before the meeting, just because many work independently as freelancers. For example, I have an assignment I should be doing today, but I had to take the day off for this. So starting or arriving to the session without knowing the end time could be problematic for us for scheduling our other affairs. I understand leaving it open when the agenda is being developed, but perhaps a month beforehand we can set that.
And this is Colleen, I wanted to add something. As interpreters, we have to have clear schedules with beginning and end times so that we know. For example, like on October 30th, I didn't realize we had moved that up, which caused a problem because I can work until a certain end time, but if it moves, it changes my ability to be able to show up in person or not. So any time changes clarified would be great to know, and knowing the end time, just so I can make plans for that. Because I can't leave the rest of my day open. It doesn't function that way for me well in the schedule. So if we can end it at 2, that's fine. And then we can decide to end earlier should that be appropriate on the day. So that's okay with me. Thank you.
You can't do that.
You can.
Yeah, I guess you can.
And if we could take a moment for the interpreters to switch again.
This is Colleen, if I can make an alternate suggestion. How long it takes to, let's just say how long it takes to book the interpreter, how long the interpreter is requested for, because we cannot have the meeting continue without an interpreter, obviously. So simply for the captioner and for the interpreters, having an end time will facilitate their being here, facilitate the committed time for them to be here for the session.
So HLO
Sammy?
goes until, interpreters go to 3. So you want to say we're going to end by 2 to give 2:30, by 3.
Sure, that would be fine. That sounds good. Great, thank you for clarifying, Sammy, I appreciate that.
Mish gave a thumbs up.
Okay, so are we gonna set the time for the 2?
See what they put in the motion.
So this is Bob, Chair and members of the board. We need a motion for the dates and the time, and including the end time. So if someone wants to motion that end time, 2 o'clock, 2:30, 3 o'clock, we can put it in.
This is Eric. I have a lot of flexibility in my schedule to be here, and so I have that privilege, luckily. So I would ask that any of our folks who are kind of beholden to that freelance schedule and limitations, if y'all could make the suggestion of what our end time should be, because for me, 2 sounds good, and it seems like there'd be more time in the day to work. 3 sounds great. If we've got tons of stuff on the agenda to address, 12 sounds good if it's a short agenda, but you know what I mean? Like, we don't, I can stay as long or short as necessary, especially on Zoom. So, if I would just ask, maybe if we could get some feedback of what a good end time would be, and then we can make that motion. Thank you.
Sammy?
You could leave it as by 2, and when I draft the agenda, I can call Colleen, tell her what the topics are, and we can work through the timing, and that way we would know how much time we need. And I usually draft the agenda a month in advance.
Okay, I appreciate that, Sammy,
So
thank
that's
you.
2 o'clock.
So then I guess I'll make the motion that we accept the schedule dates as they are with the start times that are already noted on that and the end time to be 2 p.m.
I second.
Okay,
Al seconds.
I'll roll, please.
Okay, we'll now call roll. Al,
Aye.
Mish,
Yes, aye.
Eric,
Aye.
Tammy,
I,
and the chair is aye.
Okay.
Yes, keep on rolling.
All right, good job, Chair. So,
You're very much, that's very much appreciated, thank you.
the next item on the agenda is the director's report. And the first item on my report, this is Bob, by the way, is the board membership. And we discussed it a little bit, but I'll just go over real quick. Colleen is in a first term, which expires 12/31 of 2025, and at that time, Colleen can reappoint. Al is in a first term, that ends 12/31 of 2024, and Al can reappoint. Eric, first term, it expires 12/31 of 2024 and can reappoint. Mish is in the first term, it expires 12/31 of 2026, and Mish can reappoint. Tammy is also in the first term, and it expires 12/31 of 2025 and can reappoint. And as mentioned, we do have 2 vacancies. And interpreter, if I'm going too fast, please let me know.
thank you. We're monitoring her. She's good.
There are a couple of items also that I want to point out with regards to board membership. And in the materials that are on our website under this board, in the board meeting, and all the board members have, are trainings that are required. Once per term, there is an overview of boards and commission. Again, that's once per term.
Review of boards and commission.
The next is information security training foundations,
On page 15,
and that's required annually.
to be 15 is there. All the way to the bottom.
And there's an additional preventing discrimination and harassment, which is also required annually. And those are all on slide 15. Moving on. There's a little item I'm going to read on slide 18. As of June 7, 2024 at 11:59 p.m., all HLO issued temporary licenses became null and void. HLO has extended the limited waiver on enforcement through December 31 of 2024. This means that the HLO is exercising its discretion to not take disciplinary action against individuals who are required to be licensed and choose to work under the limited waiver on enforcement. Basically, not obtain a permanent board license. The limited waiver of enforcement is narrow. The waiver only applies to the singular issue of providing sign language interpretation services in Oregon without a license. The HLO may impose discipline or any other violation of the HLO or board rules or statutes. The limited waiver of enforcement ends December 31 of 2024. On January 1 of 2025, any individual not covered by an exception and providing sign language interpretation services will need to have a permanent license to avoid enforcement action by the HLO. Board members required to be licensed, must be licensed to serve on the board. After planning it, yes, but so, is there a question?
Eric?
This is Eric speaking. Just questions about reappointing. So my first term was for 1 year. If I reappoint, will I also get 1 year
No.
reappointed? Or how?
Full term. So be 3
4 years. You want to laugh over?
What's that coming to?
We're double checking on the longevity of the board members. It's either 3 or.
3.
Oh, for this board, it's 3 years.
We always have to check.
Thank you.
This is Colleen. Just to clarify, is that 3 years automatically applied to anyone who reapplies? Are we done with the 1 year and 2 year terms? Is it always 3 years now?
It's just saying yes. The answer correct.
And this is Eric.
Thank you for clarifying.
Same for the vacant positions, those will be 3 years then.
Correct.
Okay, moving on to slide 19. So this is, I think, the first time the board has seen these types of slides, and I'll just give a little quick overview. HLO in the state runs on a fiscal year, so that is July 1 of 1 year to June 30 of the following year. That's why you see fiscal year 2025 on here. So in quarter 1 of fiscal year 2025, there was 31 educational licenses issued. And in quarter 2, which we're in now, there was 2. For educational temporary, for quarter 2 of fiscal year 2024, there were 24. Quarter 3, there were 62, and quarter 4, there were 8.
Those ones are null and void.
Generalist license, quarter 4 of 2024, there were 5. Quarter 1 of 2025, there was 30, and in quarter 2, thus far, there have been 8. Generalist temporary license, quarter 2, there were 31. Quarter 3, there were 291. And quarter 4, there were 25. And this is for fiscal year 2024. Legal license, fiscal year 2024, in quarter 4, there were 2. In quarter 1 of 2025, there were 8. And so far in quarter 2, there have been 1 issued. And for the legal temporaries, there were 7 in quarter 2 of 24, 26 in quarter 3 of 24, and 5 in quarter 4 of 2024.
Say your last one again.
There were 5 in quarter 4 of 2024. medical license in quarter 4 of 2024, there were 10. Quarter 1 of 25, there were 39. Quarter 2, there have been 55. Medical temporaries, there were 59 in quarter 2 of 2024, 261 in quarter 3, and quarter 4 of 2024, there were 24. Provisional temporary licenses. In quarter 2 of 2024, there were 13. Quarter 3 of 2024, there were 35. And quarter 4 of 24, there were 10. Am I going too fast?
She's keeping up.
Okay. Supervisor temporary. Quarter 4, excuse me, fiscal year 24, in quarter 2, there were 64. Quarter 3, there were 132. And in quarter 4 of 2024, there were 8. Supervisory licenses. In quarter 4 of 24, there were 19. In quarter 1 of 2025, there are 90. And quarter 2 of 2025, there have been 54 issued.
We're gonna go ahead and switch interpreters.
Okay, that's good. Let me take a breath. Okay, on slide 30, licenses by age and gender. This one will need a little bit of work. This report includes all of those that I just read. I'm really not even going to cover it.
So, this is Tammy, so it includes the temporary and the official licenses?
Yes.
Or, okay.
Yes. Okay. The next slide, slide 31, is the Sign Language Interpreters Board financials. In 2024, we started with a zero beginning cash balance. Into June of 2025, we ran into the debt of $73,088.30. And we've taken in revenues in 2024 of $4,250. And in 2025, so far, we've brought in $51,875. This is the fiscal year still. Expenditures of $77,000, $338.30 in 2024. And expenditures of $27,160.70 in 2025. Net operations in 2024 were $73,088.38. And net operations in 25 have been $24,714.30, leaving in 2025 an ending cash balance of $48,374. When new boards come to HLO, there is an expectation that they run into the negative. But once licensing fees and those revenues start coming in, this board will turn around and then the revenues will start coming in and we'll have a better projected direction, meaning into the black where there's a positive for revenues. Any questions on the director's reports?
Can I ask one out of curiosity? Oh, sorry, this is Eric. Just curious, I like this one that's all, I like data, I like numbers and graphs. Just curious why there's the one that's ranks them by age and gender. Like, is that?
It's what all the other boards have asked, so
Okay.
we're, just trying to remain consistent. Sorry about the vocabulary lesson. Consistent, so, it's easier for the analysts and the folks pulling the reports to do it one way for all 19 programs, because
Gotcha.
everybody has a different one.
Okay.
And I like how you have that laid out.
Well, yeah, I got a lot of space.
Sorry?
They could do like county, if they wanted.
Yeah, we can add reports. So if there's a report as we go through these and as the board gets more familiar with them, reach out to Sammy and make us, if you want to make a suggestion, like if you want to know how many interpreters for education or in what county.
Yeah.
The only caveat to that is it's the county of it'll be their address, their residential address, not necessarily where they will be working.
Gotcha. Yeah, because I don't know, just making data-driven decisions. Think about that. And this, although it looks great, I don't know that it has much utility purpose for us. But thinking about what information might, I don't know, I guess I don't know what information would help us make better decisions, but.
Well, if I may, the board is in its infancy, right? It's been 10 months and we've overcome a lot of hurdles. And there's been a lot of questions, a lot of good questions. And as time goes on, any recommendation that you can think of as we learn and you learn, we're all ears.
How about, is there, because I'm looking at like some of this gaps between the temporary licenses and the current. Sorry.
Just so you know, Colleen and Al both had hands. Because no, it was all at the
So
same time.
keep going there.
Okay, keep
Okay.
going.
Sorry, excuse me, I'm looking down, not up.
Exactly, that's why I just wanted to ask.
Go ahead, Eric.
I just think that there's, I think it might come up later that there's this gap between what was temporary and what the current license holders are. I don't know.
So the chances are those temporaries, it's a null and void, they're gonna fall off. So this was a one-time shot that
Okay.
you'll see, so the board has a view of what type of licenses were out there, what were being used, what's coming in. So it also helps us project what it might look like down the road when the rules are settled and there's no more exemptions and
Yeah.
we're moving forward.
I guess that's, and excuse me again for it, I just want to finish my thought. That I guess is what I was thinking in terms of like the cost for licenses based on the projected number of assumed people getting licenses compared to actual. And like if that might affect the cost of our licenses down the road or something we need to consider in terms of board operations. That's what I'm thinking of with this data.
If I may respond, this is Bob, and it's been a Bob and Eric conversation for the last couple minutes anyway. That's exactly right. Once we get through this first year, we'll have a better idea. What we struggle with is we've had so many folks take advantage of the exemption. And we don't know, it's hard to project how many will continue on. The limited waiver, sorry, for clarification on the exemption. So we don't know how many will carry on and get a license and continue to move on. And that brings up another point, is when the board came to us, we did not know how many potential licensees would be out there.
Thank you. Thanks board for letting me talk that out.
There were some other questions.
And Colleen has her hand raised. So is it possible to maybe analyze, I don't know if other boards have done it in this way, but look at regions? The Portland area and the Salem area, the metro area compared to the rest of the state. And see
how it's handled,
And see if any, and look at the other out-of-state people.
look at other out-of-state people to see how they're participating, to see if they're looking for just the temporary licenses, and are they also receiving the permanent licensure? And I would like to see that information based on region.
What do you mean by
So
region?
the city of Portland versus rural and out of state. Those would be the three categories.
So
You got Nate in the back.
Yes, Sammy, you have your hand up?
we would need to define metro. What we usually do is do it by county. We've got Multnomah, Clackamas, Lane, Marion, that are the bigger ones.
And for
I could share my screen on another board that has the same.
Yes, yes, I would like that. Fingers crossed, I hope this works.
In the meantime, while she's doing that, Nathan, who's our current statistician.
So this is Nathan. I can pull by, I'll tell you what I can pull by. I can pull by zip code, city, county, state. That's really about the only regions I can pull by. So if you're thinking of other regions, I can look into it, but that's what's in our database.
And but we have to go outside of Oregon, I think is one of the questions.
We outside of Oregon, we do have a lot outside of Oregon.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I can do that as well.
Yeah.
Because we've got midwives have some in Washington that's on our list.
Mhm.
Skamania County. so yeah.
Can you zoom that so I can make sure everybody can see it? Chair, this is Bob. Can everybody see what's on the screen? So that's one of the charts for the Board of Midwifery by county. And again, it's the mailing address, not necessarily what a licensee works.
And I wanted to ask Colleen, this is Eric. Colleen, I guess what are you trying to find out in terms of that information? Because I nerd out on this stuff through the HLO registry, and I look at these numbers. And so one of the comments that Sammy made was that that information that we're seeing is based on their registered address. So they may be registered in, Grants Pass, but work in Jackson County. Or they may be live in Portland and work in Salem. So there's a lot of that border crossing that happens that this data won't capture.
Yeah.
They stopped sharing.
And, oh, thank you for that. I figured. So my question really,
Sure.
I'm not gonna go into the weeds like Eric will, but I'm just thinking about the metro area. They provide a different kind of assignment and the demands are different and expectations are different in that area, in that region. So in the rural areas, there are different demands. It has a different impact. So I would like to see how much of an impact it has on the rural areas compared to the metro area and for the out-of-state folks. Yeah, and when it's separated by county, I don't particularly find that helpful personally. I'm thinking Lane to Multnomah. I would like to know those numbers. Al, yes, Al, you have your hand raised?
So that list that you just did, I'm just trying to get the big picture. So it's just kind of what people have filed.
This is Bob. It is their,
Or are those temporary licenses or? Go ahead,
Those
Bob.
were midwives.
That was just an example.
Did you voice that? Colleen's asking, did the interpreter catch all of that?
There's overlap.
Yeah, we're talking at the same time. Oh my gosh. Wait a minute. I don't think Al was finished. Can you finish your comment, Al?
So that information that we just saw, is that those are the people that have applied for a license, right? So are those people that, the ITP people that graduated, did they do the, like, was that broken down for like the different licenses? We had the temporary, hold on, let me look at what I'm trying to see. The fiscal year, like 24, there was 13 temporary licenses for quarter 2, for quarter 3, it went up to like 35, and then it went down. So I'm just curious, help me understand why the fluctuation in applicants. I just am not understanding that data very well. So can I get a better understanding and just, for like between the deaf community and the licensed interpreters that are there? Bob,
So the reason why there's a discrepancy between the temporary, where there was a high, we had 900 temporary license holders, is we put the limited waiver in place. So many hundreds of those 900 are not working with a license. They're working without a license, because we have the limited waiver in place. So when the limited waiver eventually goes away, presumably all of those people will get a license. But because we've got this weird space where you don't have to have a license to practice, some have chosen to get the license, like Eric, and some have not. But they can still practice. Does that make sense?
Yes, this is Colleen, but I would like to add a comment to what Sammy said. You're right. Maybe there are people saying, yes, that we don't need to be licensed now, but there are also folks that can't afford it, and so they're putting it off or avoiding it. And then also there's some that don't even realize, they don't understand, that they actually do need to be licensed. They thought their temporary would be in good standing until the end of December. So it seems like the email communication hasn't been perfectly understood by its recipient. So I, as a board member, I've been trying to get the word out to people, but at the same time, I don't want to be the police and want to make it clear. So just putting that out there.
And if we could pause again for interpreter switch. We're ready.
Colleen saying, any additional comments?
Yeah, I wanted to add something. This is Al. Yeah. What you were just talking about, are they gonna add race? Just help me understand sort of in general, more about the licenses.
Age and gender.
I'm looking at the age and gender sheet.
And, people of color, race, who can afford, who can't afford. I understand Al's question.
So that,
Question is.
yeah, I mean, I'm with you. Can Al clarify what she means, or?
I mean, it's self-report. You
Yeah,
don't have to
sure.
report.
Yeah, it's a good question. I just wanted to suggest.
I would just like to suggest that race be added to the gender and age demographics that we're looking at. If we could just add race, that would help me understand better the correlation between people who can access the money to pay for and afford the license and people who are unable or maybe have barriers right now and are unable to pay for the licenses. It would just help me understand those two demographics better.
Sammy?
I think that definitely we can do that, but Colleen can choose to say, I'm white and female, but Eric can choose to not say anything. So you're gonna have, it's not going to be accurate. So if you're looking for, a percentage based on who's licensed, So a lot of people don't tell us. They leave the question blank. So we don't get the data. But we can definitely report the data we do get, with the caveat that if they didn't report, it won't be reflected in the stats.
Okay, this is Al again. So help me understand how that works then. Could you explain that?
Can I help?
Yeah, go ahead.
This is Eric. When you fill out a form and there's like a little asterisk that you have to fill out your address, but then there's like another box that says race and it's optional. That's what Sammy's saying, is that there's some folks who report it and there's some folks who don't. And because it's reported inconsistently, it's a hard statistic to report out because it's not a requirement to fill out the application.
Optional ones.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Eric, for clarifying that. Colleen?
Yeah, I wanted to clarify. I didn't realize, Al, have you not seen the form that we've been filling out for the license?
No.
Oh,
Yeah,
okay,
I don't know what it looks like.
Okay, yeah, okay. Well, that would explain it because we've all filled out the form. Obviously you haven't filled it out. So it's like 3 or 4 pages long. And, there's some information that you have to, and then there's one full page that's about, specific breakdown of very specific races and stuff. Like there's like 30 different questions just in regards to race, but at the end of the day, you don't have to do it. So a lot of people just kind of look over that and say, I'm not gonna do it, because there's one full page for it, like of race preferences. But it's optional, so.
Got it. Thank you, Colleen. Thanks.
So where are we? Okay, Tammy?
Is it possible to get a breakdown of the expenditures for the board?
How much of a breakdown? Because it's about 5,000 lines.
I don't want all 5,000.
So this is Bob, we give a 10,000 foot overview of what it is, but to break it down, you would,
Like what kinds of things are being charged to the board? What expenses are out there for a board like ours, maybe even compared to other boards?
well, and compared to the other boards, it pays the rent here, salaries, the electricity, then with your board and not only your board, but other boards, we have our paid DOJ comes out of your pot for when we have Heather providing us advice. The interpreters come out of this board. And so we have direct and indirect costs.
Okay.
Sammy?
So maybe for example, we've got 19 programs. 80% of what's been paid for in this office is cosmetology. And then the other 27 is divided by 18, and then you pay that percentage. For the overall general, me, Bob, staff, that percentage. If you have Heather that did legal advice, that's gonna be directly to the board. So RT, respiratory therapy, gets legal advice, it costs $7,000, they have to pay that $7,000. So that's a direct cost. Same with interpreters, direct cost.
Okay, so not all 10 million lines, but something just a little bit more that's in print that we could look at, just to give us a better idea of, because that is a huge number, $77,000, and it just makes you wonder for, is that gonna be an annual expense? Is that a typical expense? I'm not sure about, I don't know, we would need to check, and maybe Heather can answer this or not, but I don't know that charging the interpreter costs to our board can be done. I think that needs to be an ADA accommodation, so we need to figure out where that lies. So I'd like more clarification on that.
Okay, so the interpreter cost, we worked with Equity and Inclusion, which has got our ADA on it, and the service is requested, and it's been being provided. I haven't received a definite on where the cost is supposed to come from. So currently, the payment, yeah, who's actually paying it. So currently, the board pays it. So if we have, like Sammy said, respiratory therapy, they needed an accommodation, then the board would absorb that cost. All boards, as long as, so from my understanding of what I was informed of, is if there's a request, as long as it's being accommodated, nobody's given, I can't get an answer.
No one's giving up their money.
Yeah, I can't get an answer on who's responsible for paying. The important thing to them is that it is being done. It's being accommodated.
And I understand that. What that puts us, the position that puts us in is if you have a board that needs accommodations such as ours, then that cost is gonna now be part of our budget and expected to be covered then by the licenses, which makes our licenses more expensive, which makes it more difficult for the people who are in our field who are only working part-time, who, you know, I mean, it's impossible to work a 40-hour week as a freelance interpreter. By the time you go from this job to that job, you have time in between, you have travel time, that kind of thing. We don't have interpreters that work full-time. Most people work part-time. So what's happening is if that cost gets passed on in the form of the fees of the license, it's going to take people out of our field. Because you have people like me who I freelance a little bit. I need to freelance because I work for the school district. So I need to freelance maybe 5 hours a week. Right now, it's not profitable for me to continue freelance, which takes me out of the field. If you have another board that has no accommodations, they don't need any interpreters, they don't need any other accommodations that might be charged to that board, their licenses are gonna be cheaper. So that puts an undue burden on the people that get our licenses. So, and that's what the ADA is supposed to protect. So we really need to find out who's responsible for the interpreters.
So
You guys are at this point.
at this point, yeah.
That's the answer we
But, so let me finish, please. This is Bob, and this is probably gonna take us into number 8 already. But, no, we're not, no. To answer the question, I'm gonna talk about the fees.
Can we talk about 8? Is that what you said? No?
No,
I
so we don't, we did not know how many licensees there would be. We have to make sure the board is solid, meaning they have enough money to operate. Once we get through the rules, so the fees are established at this point. Once we get through the rules, once we get the board where we're not meeting Heather at each meeting, that cost will go away. We'll only have the meetings that we do have. And then the fees, we can adjust them. Right now, they're basically in statute. The legislator approved it, and we're abiding by it at this point. It's expected that the new boards will be underfunded, so to speak. You know, they won't have enough money, but as things move forward and progress, and there's enough money coming in, there's not the expenditures, we need a cushion in the event that there's a big DOJ cost, for example, where we're in a hearing and we're just hemorrhaging money. But on the normal side, we'll be able to, once everything is settled, the dust is settled, when the board is really up and running, then there's an opportunity for us to rule to potentially reduce the fees. But at this point, we're $70,000-ish in the red, and we need to come out of that with a cushion before I can comfortably reduce fees.
Okay, this is Tammy. So what do we need to do from here to get that decision as to where that money should be coming from and where the budget should be coming from to pay for the interpreters?
I can poke and prod back at equity and inclusion and attempt to get an answer.
We need to get an answer. Yeah.
I agree.
Yeah, because that number needs to change.
I completely agree. I've worked on it, and I got my response.
How can I help?
Basically just shared.
Who can I bother? How can I help?
Equity and inclusion, but
Will you give me an email address of someone to contact, please?
I will.
Thank you.
This is Eric, if I can add my comment. All due respect, Bob. We don't need interpreters to conduct our business. It's HLO who needs interpreters to understand what we're doing. So really, it's not our need for access, it's your guys' need for access, which makes me feel like, is that our board responsible for the state to be able to participate in our board? Like that's.
So this, Bob, so we have all the public out there that are on the meetings that are receiving this accommodation as well.
I would be curious if there's anyone in the public who's attending these meetings who don't know sign language.
Right. But if we didn't have them, they wouldn't understand what I was saying. They would not know what I was saying. They would not know what our attorney is saying, or Sammy. You know, the board can do it. The board members can do it. But aside from that, there would be no connection between HLO and the community. But point taken, Tammy, and we'll work on that.
Yeah.
But like I said, every board that comes to us is in the red
Colleen has her hand raised.
for a certain amount of time, and then we work our way out of it.
Colleen, is your hand up?
So, this is Colleen. I understand this discussion about accommodations, but the point, I guess, really is another perspective. We, the community, can communicate together fine. It's the other side of the board, the DOJ or whatever, that is the people that need the accommodation, and then the burden is put on us, you know, as the minority. So we have to absolve that cost. When really it's, you know, there should be some sort of something written when the bill was passed to acknowledge that there should have been some other funding source to cover the cost for this, but really you just put all the cost, all the burden on the minority. And right now the issue is, you don't realize it, but you're causing a shortage of interpreters.
This is
So,
Bob.
and the people that don't want a license, interpreters that don't want a license, and those, they're afraid to be able to keep up with the cost. So you're not gonna, you know, get the money to be equal. You know, I feel like it's just gonna become more of a disparity. So because there's interpreters afraid and they're leaving the field. You know, they're going to work in another state, you know, because they're afraid they're not gonna be able to afford and to survive and live off of an interpreter income because of these fees. So we already have a shortage currently, you know, and I feel like this is making us worse off. It's causing more of a problem. We need to identify the negative, and, you know, I feel like we're not ever gonna get to where we have that cushion to be comfortable. So that's my 2 cents. And this is actually the interpreter's gonna
Tammy?
switch.
And Tammy will be next.
This is Tammy. And please, Bob, don't take it that it probably feels like that we're attacking you, because that's not the goal. The goal is we just need to figure out where this cost needs to be paid from. In my view, and I don't know all of the legal, but in my view, charging our board for the interpreting services would be the equivalent of the doctor charging the patient for the interpreting services. And the doctor can't do that. The doctor has to incur that cost for the interpreting services as an ADA accommodation. So there must be something similar that deals with boards and the governments and all that kind of stuff. That's the part that I don't know. And that's the part that we need to figure out.
So this is Bob. Just so everybody's clear,
Yeah, go ahead, Bob.
HLO does not have its own money. HLO is able to run the board only on fees. And I totally understand what everybody's saying, and no, I don't feel attacked. I've banged my head against the wall trying to get an answer to that question since January, since Jack brought it up. And, you know, and I continue to work on it. I watch and look, but I'm happy to share with you. Tammy,
Let's spend someone else's money.
yeah,
Right.
I'm
Well,
okay with that.
I'm all for that, but not many people or agencies are willing to cut loose. But your point taken. Sammy's out, so let me see if anybody has a hand with that. I don't see anybody else.
Any chance we can take like a bathroom break or something?
Chair, this is Bob, if I can begin. If we can take a 10-minute bathroom break?
Yeah, we can
Bio
go ahead
break.
and come back at 11:30.
Perfect.
Yeah, 11:30 exactly. Okay,
Thank you.
break.
Can you mute us and,
Since everyone has returned. Eric?
I'm just thumbs up. Yeah, we're good, we're at.
Great.
so the next item on the agenda, Chair, is executive session. Right. So give us a minute, please, to get some recordings stopped. Oh, read the script, please. Sorry.
Okay. The Board of Sign Language Interpreters will now meet in executive session pursuant to ORS 192.660 2F, ORS 192.355 9A, and ORS 40.225. The purpose for the purpose of considering information exempt from public disclosure at 11:33 a.m., October 30th, 2024. Representatives of the news media shall be allowed to attend the executive session. Audience members attending through Zoom will now be moved into a separate breakout room. And audience members attending in person are asked to leave the room both for the duration of the executive session. Please continue to keep your phone muted and cameras off. So any news media representatives, are there any news media representatives connected through Zoom at this time? With no response, the chair recognizes no news media in attendance. So the public will now be sectioned off into a breakout room for the executive session. Please do continue to have your phones muted and cameras off. And we will resume the public session before we make any final decisions. So I'm assuming we're estimating returning to public session from the executive session at approximately, how much time do you think we need? 15 minutes?
30.
30 minutes.
Okay, for 30 minutes. So if we can return to public session at around approximately 12:05 p.m. The meeting may go past 12. If the public has any questions regarding, if they have any questions while we are in executive session, they can contact Josh Page at the josh.page@oha.oregon.gov. The board is now in executive session.
Just to capture.
Okay, thank you. The Board of Sign Language Interpreters will now exit executive session and will reconvene this open session here at 11:25 p.m. or a.m.
12:25 p.m.
Oh my gosh. no final decisions were made and no votes were taken in executive session, the public will be moved from the breakout room back into the meeting, and representatives of the media may once again report all board discussions and actions. Okay,
Yeah, back. We're waiting for the
Yeah,
caption.
she's here.
Okay.
She just took a second.
are the captions are happening again, or?
Captionings are happening.
Chair, are you seeing the captionings?
On the way, it's on the bottom. Yes, this is the
Okay.
chair, I can see them.
Okay, this is Bob. So, any discussion?
This is Eric. Discussion about the teletranslation rule.
This is Heather. I think we're on number 6, policy board consideration of teletranslation rule.
So I'm happy to jump in. I think that the RAC should talk about it. So that way we can have kind of a deeper dive and discussion, especially around VRS, video relay service, and video remote interpreting. I think it would be a good idea that we send it to the RAC rather than just kind of jumping in and making a decision. And so those are my thoughts. I'm not trying to make a proposal yet because I want to get feedback from everybody, but I definitely have a motion I feel confident proposing if there's no other comments or considerations.
Yeah, and I would like to add 2 things myself. This is Colleen. So the first thing is, I think that the language itself, the text there needs to be more clear, so that the community, folks in the community who are reading this, will not have any misunderstandings when they're reading about the differences between these things we're talking about. So the advice itself should be more clear.
Regarding the difference between VRI and VRS.
And especially if there's a one-time event where maybe someone's doing an out-of-state job, whether or not they should then be forced to get a license for the entire year just for the one-time job. I think there should be information discussed regarding those decisions and some considerations about that for virtual work.
So this is Heather. Just to clarify, Colleen, you're asking that when the RAC takes a look at this rule language, that you'd like them to take considerations such as that into consideration. Okay.
Yes.
Thank you.
Yes, I just don't want folks to be forced to be licensed for a one-time job. We already don't have enough interpreters, and I don't wanna put more burden on that situation, so sometimes interpreters need to fill in to make accommodations for remote jobs, things like this. I'm grateful to have interpreters for what we're doing today, but sometimes we may need to have folks from outside of Oregon, and I don't want those to be carrying the burden of then having to get the licenses to just fill in that one-time request.
This is the
It's Heather.
interpreter. If you don't mind, if we can pause for a second to switch. Thank you.
Okay, proceed.
So this is Heather. Thank you, Colleen. So it sounds like you would like the RAC to look at whether there are any exemptions that could be put in place given that rule language that you have looked at in your packet. Thanks.
I got that.
Yes. Yes. Sammy?
The RAC is scheduled to meet November 13th, and they're gonna be looking at the generalist license. Depending on how many questions that I have to work through, it could go to the next RAC, and we don't have that scheduled yet, but I imagine it will be in January. It'll just depend, because we're like only 2 weeks away from the RAC, so. But I think we have something scheduled for January, I'm lying. Yes, January 16th. So I could probably look at something then. That would be this rule with all of these other caveats with a possible exception for people only working for a short amount of time. And then for people doing the VRS nationwide, but because it's really regulated by the FCC.
And you're, just to clarify for the interpreter, you're saying those things can be added to the meeting in January?
That's what I hope, yes, I'm pretty sure. You know, it is holiday, but I'm pretty sure. Something.
Any other comments? Anyone have anything to add to the discussion, concerns, thoughts regarding language? No?
So this is,
We can,
this is Eric speaking. I just wanted to kind of
yes, Eric.
talk aloud my ideas, but not a proposal or a motion. But like I am feeling that we should have some kind of temporary exemption for people that are working in that space. So that way it allots time for the RAC to meet and deliberate. And so that's why I wanted to talk it out before making a motion.
Because we have the waiver, so everybody's working on the waiver.
So right now, I'll wait for that a second. And so, yes, the waiver's in place until like January 1st. And I think we would be banking on a lot of hope that the RAC would be able to meet and discuss it and have it, but I mean, we don't even meet till January, so we wouldn't be able to approve that exemption or requirement before the temporary deadline ends. So that's.
I think we're extending to be on the agenda, the same number.
I had a suspicion, but I just hadn't seen that yet. So I think that's great information that would kind of drive this motion. So I guess rather than beating around the bush, it sounds like there's gonna be an extension already on the temporary extension on the exemption? Waiver, excuse me. And sign, it's all the same sign. So the waiver, excuse me, it sounds like it's gonna be extended. So what my proposal was going to be was to allow for time for the RAC to deliberate what we're talking about right now. But it sounds like there's no need for that motion if the license is already going to be extended. So,
Mish has a clarifying question.
Mish? Mish? Yes?
Yes, this is Mish speaking.
Mhm.
So Eric mentioned about extending this, but aren't we past, wouldn't that be past December?
Sorry for the interpreter, am I also signing while?
No.
No. Sorry.
No. Because
Mish
Mish is signing for question, and so that's accessible in sign language, so you don't have to double interpret.
And Allison, can you please say that again? The screen froze.
And this is Colleen, just to clarify, Corinne, the hearing interpreter, thought that they needed to shadow or mirror what Mish was saying, but that's not necessary. Mish is communicating in sign language. We can all see, Al can see Mish just fine. So that's what the question was. We're all caught up. Now, is there an answer to Eric or to Mish's question from anybody at HLO? Repeat the question.
Mish never asked a question.
So it was, this is Eric. Oh, sorry, Mish, go for it. You can.
Mish.
Go for it, Eric.
So there's pieces that haven't been communicated out to everybody as a whole yet. There was the ODE, Oregon Department of Education, who had extended their enforcement on having a license. And so I had suspected that might apply to all of our licenses, especially looking at Oregon Hospital Association's letter that they submitted to it for that extension to happen. So my gut was telling me that it would probably apply to, oh, and hang on a second.
Toward the bottom of the page. I'm still looking for it. Bottom of page 57. Bottom of page 57.
That's the letter from the Oregon Hospital Association.
Same.
Okay.
Okay, so this is Eric. I'll continue if everybody's looking. So I guess what I was just hearing from Sammy is that it sounds like our exemption is going to be extended. And so I might be jumping ahead or putting the cart before the horse to make this proposal of an extension or exemption for video interpreting. And so I don't know if we want to maybe get to that update before we make proposals or motions. It seems like my crystal balling was right, but I don't want to make a motion to not for an exemption or an exception for virtual interpreters if they're already going to be included with the extension. Sandy.
So I have a list that I'm gonna take to the RAC that would involve that.
Sorry, Sammy, you said you have OS?
I have a list. That you got, so you don't even need to make the motion, but I'll take all of these things to the RAC. And one of them will be, well, I'm still not sure about the VRI, VRS, but one of them is having the VRS people exempt.
Yes,
You're
yeah, VRS.
VRS, you said,
Yeah.
okay, he said VRS
Yes,
earlier.
yes.
Is it one or both?
Listen to
One. So
VRS
this is Eric again. Bob's question was whether VRS, VRI, or both should be exempt. VRS is under federal. And so what that means essentially is there's call centers that just like they facilitate phone calls all day long coming from whichever state. And as it is now, they don't individually require each individual state license because it's a federal program. And they're exempt from those licenses. So like when I do video relay service interpreting, because I do, I don't have to have Illinois' license, and I don't have to have Wisconsin's license. I don't have to have Massachusetts license, because it's all through the federal program, through the FCC. And so I just wanted to align whatever decisions we make with that practice that's already in place. And so I think what we're talking about would apply to video remote interpreting, VRI, and regulating those folks. Because if you look at the registry, there's a heck of a lot of people outside of the state who are currently registered with a license. And my guess is they're providing video remote interpreting, because that's what a lot of the hospitals in K-12 depend on. So, but
Yes, exactly.
but it seems like we don't even need to go there, so I'm trying to be as efficient as possible with our time. So if I don't need to make a motion, then it seems like we're good to go on to the announcement about the extension.
All of it?
This is a great time to switch interpreters.
This is Colleen speaking, and I would like to add some advice. When we are making the recommendation to the RAC, we need some clear language about what kind of licensing requirements there are versus for virtual services being provided. Think about conferences versus medical appointments. Are you still going to require a medical interpreting license in the state of Oregon? While for conferences, would that be required? Think about the business owners. Would you need to have a state license for that as well?
Yes.
So let's see if the RAC could please write something that's very specific and clear about that.
This is Sammy, they haven't got to settings.
Settings.
Settings, we've done one license.
Right.
And supervision in 6 weeks. Settings will probably be the last.
But that's where we want to start. So this is Eric. And to Colleen's point, there's a lot of intersectionality that happens with that. Like within a lot of high schools, they have a nurse's office and they're getting whatever, STD checks or talking about the flu or whatever, which is a total health setting. But they're an educational interpreter. So I think there's plenty of discussion to be had on where those intersectionalities happen and what people are permitted to and what line where they're stopped. Because right now, I do have K-12 interpreters doing interpreting in the nurse's office when I would think that might not be appropriate. Or equally in education, there's IEP meetings and there's behavioral, like FBA's functional behavioral assessments. To me, that seems like a mental health qualified, required kind of thing that K-12 interpreters might be doing. So I know that's super deep and that is way out in the weeds, but if you're kicking stuff over to the RAC to consider, that's something that's been in my brain since the very beginning of the conversation. And what are we requiring, for me specifically, our K-12 interpreters to have, and what are we limiting what they can do?
Yep, we've already been down this road and we did not get very far. It was
One
a
of those
very
round
large
roads.
list that kept getting larger.
Yeah.
Concerts.
Yeah.
Lunches, parent-teacher day, parent conference, field day. It was a lot. And ODE doesn't do a definition of educational, like what is a school? They don't, we had Georgianne on the call with that, so.
Yeah.
And so, and I tried kind of honing it in and there's no hone. So, but yeah, it is on their radar. It is on the list, I promise.
Great. Okay, this is Colleen speaking. Should we move on? So let's move to the next item on the agenda, correct? updates about the drafting rules with RAC and the schedule.
Yeah.
Can we look at that?
Tammy?
So this is the work that the RAC has done over the last 6 meetings. I thought that I would bring it to you to take a look at and make sure that they're on the right track. You guys can just give me feedback, and then when we go back to the RAC, if there's things that you want them to look at again, then we can do that. So this is just give me feedback on what you think. So we're not getting too far down the road and this isn't what you want. The first one is just saying who they are, so, and what you can do, your limitations and.
This is page what? Sorry,
Page 39,
page 40?
39 and 40.
Oh, Al, I want page 39. I don't know, it seems to be speaking, it's the rough draft on feedback for temporary license, provisional, excuse me, licensing.
There should be an attachment that has 59 pages.
If you scroll up, there's 39 and 40.
Oh, you may not go ahead, hold on.
Has everyone had a chance to look over the document? Any thoughts?
Mish? I know this is not my area of expertise, but this is your field. Correct, Mish?
This is Mish, in regards to educational interpreting, is that? Sorry. So I teach interpreters, that is different. So that's different than an educational interpreter, so
Provisional.
that is different. This is provisional. So Tammy and Eric are more specialized in actual educational interpreting. I'm more in the business of teaching future interpreters.
But I'm thinking about internships. Wouldn't that be impacted by this, the provisional?
Yes.
No, internships are before provisional. So we need to, I guess, set up a waiver exemption for intern students who are in a program but are not yet ready to take the test. So I realized I was a little off, sorry. So I have students, that need internships for graduation. And right now, the law, it's not allowed to have internships. So starting in January, we're kind of stuck. PCC, we're not gonna have any graduators. So graduates. So this is an issue.
But
But I misunderstood, this is Colleen. I thought we were talking about provisional licenses, including interns. You're saying you can't?
No, because that's like a student interpreter. They're not ready to take a test. They're not ready to take
They're learning.
They still need to practice. They're still practicing.
That's what the provisional's doing.
they just,
Oh, but
and this is Eric, they just can't practice anywhere.
Should have been in the law to exempt students.
So they just can't graduate. I mean, at PCC, they require an internship, period. They must, you know, have this, practice interpreting before they can, graduate. So they're not gonna be able to do anything, go anywhere.
And this is Eric again. To clarify, Sammy, were you saying, did I hear you say that the law protects students?
It should, but it doesn't.
Right, oh, should, right,
But
right.
that would be the normal course of regulation. Never got added.
Right, and this is Eric again. That was part of, like, from the very get, when we were like, whatever we were calling it, learner's permits, right? Remember, and we were trying to figure out a way to protect that group of folks. Like, all of our attempts have failed. And so still, like Mish is saying, like, there's no avenue for anybody who's in a program right now or to graduate because they're not protected. There's not any kind of exemption or exception for students or people in rural communities who are learning and they aren't technically students or interns. There's no protection for those folks still. And we've kind of gone in circles on this, but there's still no protection for that group of folks.
This is Mish. So, yeah, thank you, Eric, for that background. Yeah, I agree. You know, we have been trying to set up something and it's failed. So I guess we need to advise the RAC. And my understanding is we did advise them, the RAC, because I had heard that they had had a discussion, but my concern is HLO is kind of confused with educational interpreters and students becoming interpreters.
No, we're not
Oh,
confused.
I mean,
Okay.
I-
So the RAC had commented, had a discussion, but it seems HLO kind of lumped students becoming interpreters and educational interpreters together.
Well, how do we resolve this? Because this is a barrier.
This is Mitch. Yeah, we need to set up, you know, some sort of exemption for students that are enrolled in a college level interpreting program and work under a licensed interpreter. I mean, we have to have that passed. Actually, we need it passed today, really. It's urgent.
Everybody can work under the waiver.
Sammy, go ahead.
Everybody can work under the waiver. Waive away. We're wavering right now. No need for any exemptions right now.
So, but doesn't that end? This is Mitch. That
Nope.
ends in
We're
December,
extending it out,
right?
moving it out, at least till July. Just because the rules supervisory committee is not done. It should have been up higher on the agenda, but it's not.
So we should have been informed about the waiver
We're
until
telling
July,
you
because
now.
nobody knows.
Alice saying, yeah, I didn't know either. I didn't know.
It's on the agenda, it's here, and
I
I'm
guess
telling
it's
you
news
now.
now. I guess it's news
And I
now.
have 60 days to send out communication, which I will do.
Colleen, this is Eric. Colleen, I'll loan you my crystal ball so you can have a better predictions. Joke, total joke. But yeah, that's why I'm not making a motion now.
Understood. This is Mitch, understood.
Okay, so Mish, do you feel satisfied with this?
Ish. I mean, I still want to pass a vote, you know, I mean, if the RAC's already discussed and done their job, then it's back to us now, right, as the board, so why keep delaying it? I just don't understand.
Can Sammy answer that? Why?
It's my understanding that the way it was, you guys proposed it with the rule and the education, that wasn't, the law didn't allow for that. But I'm telling you, what the RAC has done is the provisional license.
Right.
Nothing more than that. They worked on the general a smidge. I believe you guys got advice in April about the learner's license.
Yeah.
So this is Eric again. So is there a way we can ask the RAC to prioritize talking about that? Because like, right now, I hear Mish's concern is that as of January 1 until right now, was under the impression that none of the students going to interpreter schools to become interpreters would have a way to get that field experience that they need. And so, I just lost my thought.
Prioritize, RAC.
Oh, yes, thank you, thank you, thank you. So is there a way to ask the RAC to prioritize that license or that exemption so that they can make the proposal to us so that we can accept it? Because it sounds like this kind of roundabout conversation we've had is we all recognize there's a need for protections. But like you're saying, they're talking about provisional licenses right now, and it's like, but the priority right now is making sure that those people in programs are able to move into practicum, or else we won't have the next generation of interpreters. So putting it off until later when it's convenient is inconvenient for those people who are in programs right now.
This is Colleen.
Thank you, Eric. This is, thank you.
Thank you, Eric. I am curious about the provisional. I look here at the draft. Are you wanting us to approve this? I guess I just need to know, are there additions that need to be made, or are we passing it back and forth for feedback? I'd like to know what the RAC has been working on up to this point. Do you want us to approve?
No. So all this is for you to look at and say, oh, look, the RAC's going down the right path. We've got different pathways for licensure. So the first one is academic degree. So if you have an academic degree, that's one pathway. The second is you get licensed by exam. The third one is education and training. And that one is, and then it goes into defining English proficiency and then ASL proficiency. That ties back to pathway 3.
These are the interpreters. We're gonna switch
And pathway 2.
very quickly. I'm sorry, Sandy, you said pathway 2 and 3?
The ASL and English proficiency
And then,
ties back to.
Mish, go ahead and do your comment after this. Go ahead.
Okay, so the comment about the pathways, do you want us to, is it time for us now to comment on that?
You don't have to comment. It was just to keep you apprised of where we're at. When they're done, I'll bring you the whole package to approve as proposed rules. And then we'll start the rulemaking process. So
Okay,
this is just, hey,
okay,
there's this.
then I just have a short comment. So pathway 1. Does that mean that it's a 100% no on ITP degrees not being recognized as a qualification? Is that no?
The deaf community has said that does not. The deaf community said that just having graduated from an ITP is 100% not acceptable to be a qualified interpreter.
But again, there's, education is not the same thing as a skill set. So, I've been a teacher for a long time, and in my department, I'm the chair, and I can confirm that the student's education is not equal, does not mean necessarily that they're a qualified interpreter.
To work under supervision.
And that being one pathway, feels like it should not be enough.
This is just the baby step, right? This is for provisional interpreters. So an ITP, this is like their first step.
And they're under supervision.
And I understand that, I do, but I know that the feedback was strong from the deaf community about that point. And, you know, we still have the issue of then finding a qualified interpreter, even when the interpreter then has the degree and the education, it doesn't mean that they have the skills. I wish that we didn't need to have then another process to go through, but this is just how it is. The ITP, as I understand it, all ITPs all over the US don't have standards in place. And so I think that's where we get into a
But
little.
provisional requires them to be with a mentor. So I feel like that is some place to start. I mean, that's the bare minimum. We're not saying they're qualified. We're just saying, yeah, the supervisor is the qualified point. That's the point. They need a place to start.
Yeah, and I'm just letting you know that I have seen people graduate who can't sign. They're just barely signing, but they've been able to graduate.
Eric?
Thank you, this is Eric. If you look at pathway 3, it says have received 40 hours of education and training related to sign language interpretation. So I feel like an ITP is way more, has so much more weight than that 40 hours.
That's pretty rough.
So if we're saying one of the pathways is to just have 40 hours of interpreting, and that's a way to get into the field, I think the gold standard in that, using those, would be ITP graduate would have the most qualifications to get into interpreting than other options.
Mish, yeah.
Yeah, so I see number 2 also requires skills, signing skills, proficiency. And so that should be, something that we add as a requirement, but just the education itself is not enough.
Okay.
There's no language proof, there's no proof that they do in fact have those skills. And so we can't accept that.
Don't they develop, this is Bob, don't they develop those skills in their provision?
Colleen, that's already there.
But not
This is
under pathway
Colleen.
1.
I just want to clarify. I'm just reading, give me a moment to read through. Okay. Go ahead, Eric.
It's Eric again. So just looking at number 1, where it speaks to sign language interpreters from an accredited college or university in the United States. Some of us in the rural areas don't have access to that, but they do have access to online programs like Stepping Stones through St. Catherine's University or the Compass program through Sorensen, which are not universities or colleges or accredited in any ways. But they are interpreting training programs. So I don't know if there's anywhere that can fit in here, and I don't know how to classify those programs, but I would, okay, pathway 3. I'm just thinking that it would be,
Yeah, that's number 3.
yeah, it would be important to have those programs considered as well.
Go ahead, Tammy.
On pathway 2, is the point of this to have a written exam or a performance exam? Because some of them are written. The NIC knowledge is written, the CDI knowledge, I'm assuming is written, the CASLE generalist knowledge examination, written. The EIPA is a performance. There is an EIPA written. So should that one be the EIPA written? Can you specify? PEI basic, is that both? Written and performance?
Just the one.
I don't know. And then also at the top of pathway 2, it says an applicant must submit proof of all of the following. And then on A, it says one of the following.
It's a rule. I mean, you have to break it down by alphabetical, Roman numeral. There's some,
So you're
So is
saying
it all
A, B,
of, all
C.
of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5?
you have to have all of big A, big C, and big B. Big A, big B, big C, and one of big A.
Following you. Okay, so the little Roman numeral numbers, it would be more clear under A if those were moved over. Indent those suckers. Following now. Never mind.
I can move it over. But it won't be that way in
Yeah.
later.
Mish?
So for number 2, there's A, B, C. But it seems like some of them in A should apply to, could apply to B or C. For example, if I got a Nick, that could apply to B or C as proof of my skills. So some of them seem to overlap.
Yeah, Mish, I agree. Like the EIPA has an English language portion of the written test. So, and then it's a performance portion also, so that would provide for B and C.
Down below is what they determined, what they think, the RAC think, and this was a long discussion, believes makes you proficient in ASL and proficient in English, under 8.
Oh, I got it, okay. Okay, so there are some options.
Go ahead, Eric.
Hey, this is Eric again. Any chance we can include AA in that list on, 3, pathway 3, number 8, lowercase a? Because a majority
Yes, I
of our
see that.
interpreting training programs, you get an
Mish
AA.
agreed, okay,
I
yeah.
don't know what you said.
What's that?
I have no idea what you said.
Oh, let me back up. So, under pathway 3, number 8,
It says an AA,
subsection
it does say an
A.
AA
It doesn't
degree.
make sense. Pathway 3
Or
is
any
C.
other degree. Or any other degree in the United States institution of higher
8
education.
is all by itself. It's a loner. It's a loner.
Let me show you what I'm seeing.
I know what you're saying.
Okay,
Yeah,
so
it's
or
a loner.
any degree.
So who does this A belong to?
Add that, but you kept saying pathway 3,
Oh, that's the start here.
but that's not the start, it's a C. Welcome to the rule book.
It doesn't follow
The little
standard
C is
outlining
under
for-
7.
Yeah.
All right, so,
What do you want to add?
so that's weird. Why not say AA instead of any other degree? Seems they go to list out bachelor, master, doctorate, and any other degree. I'll just say AA, bachelor, master's, doctorate. Save on some words.
So are you saying they should have an associate's degree, should be added?
I mean, I guess if there's a catch-all or any other degree, then never mind, no need. But if we're talking about clarity purposes, somebody might read it like I just did and say, but it doesn't say AA.
So what do we need to do now?
We can move right along,
So we can just, do we just need to acknowledge that we've looked at it and we can move on?
and I'll take all these notes back to the rec.
All right, so now we're on to the supervisory.
Yep.
Great.
Let's
move on.
Providing supervision.
I just want to respect everybody's time. Let's keep it on. Keep it on. Let's keep on moving on. Do it.
Tammy, do you want to start by sharing the draft?
Am I doing? It's on page 46.
Oh, Sammy, excuse me, not Tammy, Sammy.
Sorry about that.
You can share. S and T, sorry. Sammy?
I'm opening it up. Hold on, give me 1 second.
And Mitch says, so now we're doing supervisory license, right?
Uh-huh.
Nope, no, just the
Wait,
supervision.
oh,
Don't we need to vote on something? Like, do we acknowledge it or something? No. That's why we're just sharing information. That's it. We're just taking in the information. That's it. So is it the same for supervisory? Are we just reading over it, just like the
Yes.
provisionary?
Correct.
This
Great.
is Tammy,
Board?
this is
Concerns? Discussion?
the supervision requirements for the provisional license. This is not the supervisory license.
Correct.
What? Okay, okay. Okay.
And now might be a good time to switch interpreters.
Mish? 1 second for the interpreters to adjust our screens here.
I can interpret from here.
I can see it too, but we can't see Colleen either though, so. I guess that's on them. We're good.
Okay, great.
Go ahead, Mish.
I'm curious about the HLO's thoughts on this. It seems like it's a lot more time on the HLO's part, a lot for them to work through. And I know that the HLO is awfully busy with applications, considering applications. So to add to that, needing to approve each individual supervision seems not feasible. I can't imagine the HLO would be able to keep up with that in a timely manner.
And Colleen says, yeah, and to hear back in 24 hours.
So I wonder what that would be, and I'm concerned about the impact on students, obviously. It doesn't seem to make sense for the supervisor and the provisional, it might make better sense for the supervisor and the provisional licensee to take it on them to handle that process. And the HLO will be available for complaints or for deviations or for issues that occur. But for the HLO to take responsibility for every single supervision, I can't imagine them being able to facilitate that effectively. It seems like it would be too much work for them to handle.
Sammy? Sammy, with an S?
No, it would not be. It would be a standard operating procedure. Basically, we get a form and it has the supervisor's name and the supervisor's signature we're gonna look and see if they're licensed.
Okay. Okay, so would it be prioritized, like it would happen in a timely manner?
Will the wording be easier? Could it be notification instead of approval? Just notify by writing?
That's just on the that's just application. It's on the application now.
Mish?
I'm just considering the time and the financial aspect of it. The HLO already seems to have quite a bit on its plate. And then to add something like this, I can only imagine would have a negative impact on the licensure process for interpreters in general. I'm concerned about that. If the interpreters were to take it upon themselves to double check that all licenses are in effect, are appropriate, and take care of that information, I feel like would facilitate things better. We're going to end up having to pay, if the HLO takes it on themselves, the licensees end up having to pay for it anyway.
We're paying for it anyway. It's part of the application process. But yes, I'll take that remark back to the RAC and tell them the concerns.
Okay.
Okay, I see Eric's hand raised, I think.
Just the body.
Oh.
Tina and Heather have their hand raised.
Tina.
You know what's first.
I
See,
see Tina.
Stop
Wait,
sharing.
I'm sorry. I see Heather and Tina. Heather, do you have a mic?
Thanks, Colleen. And I had imagined that Tina was going to address this as well. The supervision that you may be envisioning might be different than what is required under the rule. So under the draft proposal, the supervisor must meet with a provisional license holder in person or remotely once per calendar month. So it's not a supervision of every single interpretation. It is, they describe what the supervision is. And so I don't know in your mind whether you're thinking about it as more onerous than what's described in the draft. But I wanted to point you to that so that you could hear and see what the RAC has described as what that supervision would be. And so if you look on page 47, under 5,
Just a second.
and so in the draft, they have described what supervision is, what is required in terms of the time commitment. And so then that is what would be supervision for a provisional. And I'll leave it to Tina if she had more to say.
She's our licensing manager. Tina?
Yes, this is Tina. I just wanted to let you know we do this daily. It's just a process of the application. We look up the supervisor, make sure that they're licensed in good standing, and then it's approved. We just attach the supervisor to the provisional licensee. It doesn't take any more time than what it does to process the app. It's all in one.
Yeah, so I'm open to thoughts, but the paperwork, are there any considerations regarding online, filling this out online for the sake of saving time? I know it takes a while to do it in paper, so it might be helpful if this was digital. Can't speak to this.
ahead, Bob.
So, we are working towards getting our applicants to be able to fill out applications and do it via online. But we are in the process of working with our contractor who facilitates, it's a third party that we have to use that facilitates payments, getting us on the appropriate platform so we can accept payments through our database, through the licensing database. So this time, no. But we're hoping in the near future that we can start migrating all of our applications to the online process.
When you say, when do you expect that might happen? Like January 1st?
This is government.
I have no idea.
Here.
I can get, I don't know if Nathan's on, but we are having frequent conversations while they put the platform together. It's a third party putting the platform together that operates and owns the platform that we have to go through per OHA policy.
Go ahead, Mish.
After reading this, it looks like, okay, the supervisor is taking responsibility for records, for notes to ensure the meetings are taking place on a regular basis according to the rules. I see. As a board, can we vote that the supervisor is not required? Because it says may. So can we say the supervisor is not required? Right now, the provisionals are required to have a supervisor, but a supervisor is not required to supervise, the one with supervisory license. So if the provisional is in need, and a supervisor decides not to offer that, and they try to go to maybe another location, another state, because they cannot find a supervisor in state to provide them with what they need. Because it just says the supervisor may supervise. It doesn't require a supervisor to supervise. So I'm wondering if that's, because it's happened in other states and it has become an issue, is there some kind of discussion here about if a provisional licensee is having trouble finding a supervisor for that?
Yeah.
And just if I can add my personal experience, I work with students, I've worked with new interpreters all the time, and they are constantly struggling to find mentorship, finding someone to work with them. With the law requiring them to be in effect mentored or supervised, and with the documentation required, meetings required, it's going to make it more difficult for them to find someone when they're already having a difficult time finding a mentor. I can only imagine it would make it even more difficult, create another barrier for them to get what they need.
Al?
I wonder, Mish, in other states, when this happened, what did they do to resolve the issue? Maybe we can use their solution for this expected problem. I've spoken with people in other states. Their advice has been to write it into the law that supervisors are required to supervise. That's why we have a provisional, a generalist, and a supervisory license. The supervisory license is for people who are supervising. However, the law is written as may supervise, which of course means they're not required to supervise to hold that license, which creates a vague gray area. Doesn't clearly determine that in order to hold a supervisory license, you have to supervise.
Yeah.
Yeah, so is May, this is Al, May makes an allowance for not doing it? This is Mish, yes, the May provides that flexibility for somebody with a supervisory license. I wonder if the board should mandate that a somebody with a supervisory license supervise for a certain number of hours to maintain their license. That's what other states have done. Other states have required that in order to maintain their license, they have to supervise for a certain number of hours, have a documented person that they are supervising in order to maintain their license as well.
Thanks, Mish.
Okay, Sammy?
The actual statutes or laws say is a licensed supervisory sign language interpreter may supervise licensed provisional sign language interpreters. So we can't make it a must if the legislature said may. You have to have the legislature change it to a must.
This is Mish. Can we add a requirement for license renewal? Make it part of the requirement to renew your license?
Maybe.
Go ahead, Tammy.
We could have the same problem going the other way, that people couldn't find that supervisor and interpreters couldn't find a team to supervise if you don't have those connections.
Oh, someone froze, okay.
This is Michigan. It used to be, the rule was, or the law stated, a supervisor can supervise or provide workshops or volunteer, or it gave options, it gave pathways to satisfy that requirement for a supervisory. But one of those requirements, one of those options was to actually supervise someone. So that might resolve a possible issue.
Eric?
Is there a way we can incentivize people being supervisors? Like, I mean, this is like down the road, but maybe having those people who supervise get a break on their renewal cost? Something, some way, I mean, because what I'm hearing is that it's gonna cost the supervisor more. Meaning they're gonna have to spend more of their time with this provisional person, even if it's just 1 hour a month. That's an hour that they can't work and earn money, right? So it's a financial disincentive right now to be a supervisor. But there's those of us who care about our profession and are like, I'm gonna be a supervisor because I know it's needed. Is there a way we as a board can incentivize that to say, hey, if you're mentoring somebody, you get a 5% break. Mentoring 2 people, you get a 10% break. Like, is there a way we can, if you're supervising 20, you get to renew for free, you know?
I think we could pause for the interpreters to switch.
Maybe after the waivers.
So I guess I'm trying to think of a constructive way to address that concern about there not being enough people. And I tend to see people react when there's incentives. So if there's not an incentive, then I don't see, other than those people, those good-hearted folks that are willing to put in that effort, like, I just imagine that would be a lot less than what we need. So I don't know.
All right, does that finish the discussion? Okay. Great, then we will leave it to the Rules Advisory Committee to sort that out and continue their work. Next on the agenda let's see, the proposed dates, scheduling RAC meetings.
From last year?
It's the rule work that's been done. It's what you just looked at. Next meeting is the 13th, and then we have one January 16th. And then we'll schedule more. This is just so you can see it.
Okay, moving on the agenda, the Oregon Department of Education update.
I don't see Georgianne, so I will fill in for her. Basically, I'm sure you already know this, they filed a temporary rule, basically removing the requirement that you hold a license, and it's for 180 days, which is 6 months. So I don't know what they're gonna do when we extend the waiver. I'll be working with Georgianne on that. So it will need a match, you would think. So in March is when their temporary rule expires, so they'll have to do something before that. If they even will, I don't know. So that's it.
Okay. Eric, Tammy, any comments?
If the
impact?
If the limited waiver is extended for HLO for all licenses, then OD will have to do the same to extend.
It's not our decision.
You would hope.
Yeah,
I mean,
it's not our decision.
yeah, I know.
So, and this is Eric, what I know about this is it was, ODE can only set temporary rules for 180 days. And that's why it ends on some weird mid-March date instead of a nice clean date. So my thought would be there's plenty of time between now and March to align with the waiver or the extension on the waiver until July. So my hope would be that ODE aligns with us, and it sounds like everything in conversations I've had with Georgianne, it sounds like that's ODE's intent. But just for the masses, like the reason why they currently are misaligned is ODE can only set 180-day temporary rules. So anybody worried about it not aligning with the July extension, I'm sure because they have a RAC as well, and it has to go through their, same thing like us, it has to go through their process to get approved.
Right.
So,
And their temporary rule doesn't. That's the kicker. A temporary rule is a temporary rule. You don't have to go through the rule review process. That's why you only get 180 days, 6 months.
Gotcha. Yep.
But if they wanted to do a permanent rule for them, they could do that. But that would have to go through a RAC. Yeah, probably. I don't know if their process is required. It's not required by law that you hold a RAC. Not by the Attorney General's manual.
Okay. I think we'll have more updates in our January session. When we hear back from them, from maybe Georgianne at that point as well. Okay, are we ready to move on?
Yeah.
Okay. All right, the limited waiver enforcement expiring December 31st. That's next on our agenda. Thoughts?
Tammy?
Bob can charge you back.
You can extend it, it sounds like, well, obviously you need to extend it. I was thinking into June, so July 1 forward.
This is Tammy.
Yes, Tammy.
Thank you, sorry, Colleen. How many times do we need
And you're fine,
to-
you waited, you're great.
How many times can we extend the waiver Is it possible to extend the waiver to the point that the rules are done and adopted? Do we need to do that? Have other boards done that?
Can't speak for other boards, but I would think that us putting goalposts for the Rules Advisory Committee to try and meet those goals, we put it out till the end of the year or into 26. I think that would give them the mindset, well, we got plenty of time to do whatever we need to do. So I think we did it from this point forward, like we've been doing, 6-month increments, and we can just, Heather Fogelsong can correct me if I'm wrong, but I think we can just extend it. We continue exercising our authority and just go until the rules are done or accessible and done enough for us to do what we need to do.
Eric, yes.
Eric again. So first I want to say I'm all for pushing it out so we can get our decisions made. And I'm not in any way advocating for not pushing it out. However, when we look at all those awesome graphs you had, if we're, like right now, I've got some people that I supervise who are upset they have to pay for a license. And I would think that once we communicate this out, that number's not gonna increase. And so
What number?
the number of licensed, people who hold licenses. So when you look at those graphs, you have the population of people who all rush to get the temporary
The revenue will be
licenses.
impacted.
And it was, somewhere around between 900 and 1,000 licenses, and then so far, we're like not even halfway there. I guess my question or thought is that if we push it out till July, that population who had temporary licenses who didn't get a license yet are also not going to get a license until that July time. And so I guess I just feel like that might have a financial impact on our board if we're already looking at the numbers of how few people have gotten licenses under what the projected number was. And I guess all that to say, like, is there a financial or fiscal impact that's gonna hit us because we push it out like that? Does that make sense at
The
all?
potential's there, yeah. This is Bob, for those that want to exercise and work under the waiver, yeah, there'd be a financial impact. But on the flip side, if we remove it, and everybody's got to pay, and we don't have.
Hold on 1 second.
One
We've got
moment,
some
please.
freezing happening.
One moment.
Yeah.
This is Colleen. I cannot see the interpreter right now. I wonder, is the laptop plugged in?
Yeah, I was gonna say Nate's.
I've lost connection. I cannot see the interpreter. It's just a frozen picture.
Oh, there she goes.
Perfect, just take a little wire.
So blurry.
It's still not a clear signal, not a good connection. The quality is degraded. It's a pixelated picture coming through. Okay, let's try, okay, I think we're okay. Let's try again. Yes, let's try again.
So Bob, would you mind repeating what you were saying?
So we have the question of if we extend the waiver, is there an impact? Yes. If we don't, no, not necessarily. But then again, we have two sets of rules. We have the supervisor and the provisional only, and it'd be relatively difficult to regulate without rules in place
We have rules.
for all the boards, for all the
Yeah.
licenses.
Yeah.
Okay.
It is the rule. So we're doing them, because we didn't have time, because of the January 1st dates, we had to put rules that not everybody liked.
So this is Eric again. For my folks, in the K-12 world, pushing out to July is awesome because that's the end of the year. So we'll all be covered till then.
If ODE extends.
Yeah, if ODE extends, which will be in that weird compliance space where one rule says something and one law says something else. And we've been told that laws trump rules, so if the waiver goes until July,
Well, I mean, with that being said, if we do have the rules that weren't liked in place, and I don't know what we can do with that, other than, okay, so we have the rules, the limited waiver expires, and we just move on.
Great time for an interpreter switch.
So do staff have any suggestions on how we can handle this, Eric's concerns?
I mean, do you want people to pay or don't you? That's the question. If we have the limited waiver, they don't have to pay.
Right.
If we take it away, they gotta pay.
I guess that's just something, this is Eric again, something, that's, I guess why I wanted to put it out, because it seems like there will be a financial hit. But will that affect our operations? Like, are we, because like Bob, you were saying there's another board that may be negative, like $1 million or something, and since we're in the black right now, are we still fine to go negative?
Yeah, I wouldn't worry.
Okay, then let's support the extension to July. Do I have to motion that?
No.
Anybody on the board feel like we shouldn't extend to July?
In one way, this is Colleen speaking, I'm thinking about, there's one phrase that might be misinterpreted.
Mhm.
Interpreters might think, oh, we don't have to do this. I want to have an accurate number of the actual active licensees that we have. You know, I don't want it to go from 900 all the way down, you know, to a tiny number. I want to be able to track the number of interpreters who are actually working out in the field, but who have been waived. Does that make sense to you? They're working under the waiver. I mean, I do feel like it's the right thing to do to extend it, but that comment.
I do want people to, that's why I have that, that's why I have the topic of looking at ways that we can reduce our fees. That's why I wanted to talk about that. So I do support extending, but you know, I also want to support the board and the interpreters all at the same time. There we go.
So, Colleen, are you talking like an early bird special?
Yes, exactly.
Yeah, and I'm all about that. I'm all about
Yeah, that's one way.
incentives. Yeah, for people who get ahead of the curve. Like, I know it's rough and uncomfortable paying for a license that's not necessary right now, but it is for our tracking purposes, it's important. And so I think it's rough to ask people to pay for something that they feel they don't need right now. And if there was a way we could offer that incentive to get people to apply still, I think it'd be a win-win. So I don't know that we can offer that, but I think it'd be great.
I think let's open this discussion maybe to the public. Maybe the public has some something to add to this. What do you think?
There's a public interest for his feedback.
Is there?
She'll have to read it into the public.
Okay.
Yeah, she's looking for it.
Oh, I see it now. Yes, it's time to open it up. So that's what I was asking. So let's go ahead, before we do this, let's get some feedback. The board, at this time, the Board of Sign Language Interpreters will hear public interested parties' feedback. Members of the public, please wait until you've been recognized. Once you have been recognized, please state your name and affiliation to the board for the record. And now it's open.
Feel free to raise your hand.
Do we have any, has anyone contacted us through email saying they want to share or that, to read? Wow. No one. Okay, well, this is the portion where we're open to public comments. Do we need to read the letter from the Oregon Hospital Association?
It's in the,
Or is it just in the record?
it's in the record.
Part of the agenda, right?
It's part of it. It's, yeah, everybody got it.
Okay. Okay, great. Just wanted to make sure that I didn't overlook that. Are there any public comments? Otherwise, we can close and move on to other business.
We can move on.
They must all be working.
Josh, you can see if someone raises their hand on the platform.
Yeah, I can see.
So I know we mentioned this a long time ago, but thinking about a discount, I'm asking, Colleen, I'm asking for everyone to consider reducing the fee. I know we're talking about who has the power, but my understanding is that for the fee, we need to figure out the range.
How many interpreters we'll have based, and then how much we have for expenses. And if a discount can be offered.
So in this interim right now, this short time, I'm just hoping that we could ask our board to consider or ask our interpreters who are required to have a license, they should have, a discount, like couldn't we start that, like a discount program? I mean, you've already showed the hardship to the community. So that's just me throwing it out there.
So this is Bob. So with regards to the fees, I don't just make decisions yes or no. I have to get fiscal impact and talk to the accountant and accountants to see what the projection is. I'm not promising anything. I'm not saying no. I'm not saying yes. I just can't give you a commitment at this time. And it would be, and it sounds like we already discussed it. If we knew how many there were.
I get it. You can't respond.
I'm trying to respond, with something more than I don't know or just a flat no. Until we have some statistics, and that's what they're going to ask you for. Well, how many do you have? How many do you think you'll have? How many do you have? 900 now, for example. What happens when they have to start paying for a license? Is that going to drop down to 500 or 200? So it's just a difficult question.
Yes.
I'm done.
Yes. And I get that, Bob, what you're saying. And the point is just being able to recognize that there's a need for a discount because we don't want the number of working interpreters to decrease.
And with the waiver, it's gonna be hard to determine how many actual interpreters we have.
Exactly. I concur.
Because how much have we paid for interpreters or the licenses right now? Okay, Eric?
Thank you. With the data we have, is there a way to look at those 900 and something who were temporary and then the 200 and something who have licenses now as kind of like a measure for that kind of early bird idea? Like, these are people who went and got the license regardless of the current waiver. Can we look at them as these, maybe label them in the sense that these are the people who would get the license to satisfy the requirement, and that number is 25% or 15%. So, like, if we're talking about a discount, we want to apply a discount to, I don't know, 15% of the people who apply, and then full price the other 85%. I don't know if there's a way to use the data we already have to, I guess, predict like who would get a discount and then what the bulk of the regular rate would be.
So I think what we would have to look at on those lines, the thought is we've got 200 that have license, so the likelihood is that they're going to continue to renew. And then a guesstimate of the 900 that may also continue to renew once the limited waiver goes away. And then it gets projected out. So how much are we spending in direct costs? And how long will it take us to get above and to being in the black or at ground zero and moving forward from there? So accounting is not my forte, but the questions, I can ask the questions and I can bring the answer back. But I mean, you're right, there's gonna be a certain percentage there's a percentage of interpreters that have already said, you know what, this is what I'm gonna do. The fee is what it is. I'm gonna get it. I'm gonna be legit. No questions asked. And then there's gonna be those that, well, I'm gonna use this as long as I can. And then once I can't, I'll go somewhere else. And then those will be a number that'll say, you know what, this is fine. This is good. We're legit. Let's move on. And so, again, it'll just be a guesstimate. And I'm not the one to make that guesstimate, at least not on the fly anyway.
Sure.
We have a hand up from SG.
Okay, go ahead, SG.
Hey, this is SG, AKA Sharon Gibbon.
This is Colleen after you. Colleen would like to make a comment later.
Absolutely. Colleen first, you say?
No, go ahead, SG.
I know that this has gone round and round in terms of fees. And Bob, obviously you're getting the point that it's difficult. And I guess I would, sort of questions that are in my mind is, where does the money for accommodations come from for other agencies? I'm not talking about boards. I understand that the boards are supposed to be sort of self-sufficient, self-sustaining. But is there, like, for the legislature, for the unemployment department, for some of these other uses of accommodations, is it coming directly from that department out of their pot of money? Or is it coming from the state? And that's a rhetorical question. It's just a thought. And I understand that you've been talking to Equity and Inclusion, and they seem to be just satisfied that there are accommodations that have been provided. And I guess I would think, in terms of equity, this particular board is bearing a very large piece of their finances to accommodations, which then gets passed down to the folks that are holding the licenses. And I just would question if that's not very equitable. And that maybe that's a consideration. I know that in other situations, I worked at a college for a number of years. Various departments, money comes out of their particular individual pockets. But sometimes with disability services, for example, there was more money put in there specifically for certain kinds of accommodations because it's equitable, because that department bears more costs than any of the others. Anyway, that's my 2 cents. I think equity is a big part of this. And when you have folks saying to you, I'm going to have to drop out some of my work as a freelancer because I can't afford it, I think that's a very real consideration. That's it. Thank you.
Thank you, Sharon. This is Colleen. am curious about the 200 to 900 range. That range, like, there's a 700 number difference, right? Can we look in the past at the temporary licenses and see who is registered out of state? Because they might not be thinking that we're gonna require it for virtual work. And I'm pretty sure that that's a large number. That gap is probably from out of state people that register. So maybe we could prioritize, VRI, having them actually pay for the license and not be able to work under the waiver. That way we could get a few more registered licensees and then we could be able to compare numbers better. I don't know if that makes sense. Bob?
So it does make sense, and I can say that we have a number of out-of-state agencies purchasing licenses for employees. So, well, I don't know what that number is.
I'm aware, I'm one of them actually.
Okay,
I'm
so-
one of the
so-
ones that, I work for one of those.
Okay, so yeah, but out of state as well, so what I can say is and acknowledge is, yes, it's happening today. They're getting the license, I don't know.
But it's not required.
Right, but I don't know, they're paying for it, I don't know what their motivation is. And I don't know what percentage of them are paying for it.
Let's switch interpreters, please.
Any more discussion? It's 2:00, just so you guys know. Go ahead.
I wanted to take a moment and introduce Chrissy Pickett. She is the new Derek, so you'll be getting emails from her rather than Derek moving forward.
Welcome.
I should have done it earlier, I apologize.
I can't really see her, but.
You want her to go stand in front of the camera? No, that one doesn't work.
It would be nice if we could give a face to the name, if you wouldn't mind.
Go up front, and you have to sit next to the interpreters. Oh, okay.
Just for a moment.
And Chair, if I may, I've got two more I would like to send up to the
Just a second,
front.
Bob, you can't talk well.
Thank you, Tracy.
Because you can't.
In line, Trish.
Come on, Derek, right after you.
There we go, Eric. This is Josh.
Wait for just a moment, please, after he speaks with C, then I can interpret. Thank you.
I'm Josh, I'm the board specialist.
And then Trish.
Yeah, great, thank you.
Hello, hello.
And what does Trish do?
Okay.
Oh, that brought up another question that I had meant to bring up, or another concern that I'd meant to bring up. So lots of HLO turnover and our board. So I would like to suggest a consideration for an application for a contact email to maybe one specific person, like some neutral email address, like ASLI form at whatever, not to Michael or whatever. I don't feel comfortable having to, one person assigned for all of our applications. You know, because what happens if, you know, like he leaves and someone else goes, or he's on vacation, he gets sick. So I would feel more comfortable if you guys would consider putting down a neutral email address that would go to several individuals. I mean, that would be fine going to several individuals, but like a neutral email address would be, I feel, beneficial. Does anybody else agree with that? Mish says, I'm neutral on that. Just throwing it out there. Okay, are we good on this? New business, done, old business, are we on old business?
There's something, I thought Colleen wanted to mention something on number 8.
We did that.
Oh, we did. See, the copies were.
Yeah, the discount, yep, that's what I was wanting to.
Hush pizza.
Yeah, the early bird, like you said,
Yes.
Eric, the early bird. Are we all good? Can I adjourn?
If she wishes.
Board, are you good with that? Mish?
I support that.
Al? Yeah? Yep, okay. Thank you, Al, for being with me today. I know it's kind of the last thing, but it's nice to have the support for you to be vice chair. The Board of Sign Language Interpreters meeting is adjourned at 2:04 p.m. Thank you. Yay! Thank you for voicing, everybody. All right.
Interpreters, thank you for your help again.
Thank you.